Would you enjoy being a diver? No, you wouldn't. My name is Daniel. I am 26 years old and currently working as a deep sea diver for a company called Rena. Today was an average day in April. It was cloudy with the sky spitting out rain. I was preparing for work, packing my suitcase, knowing I wouldn't need it. The lights were slightly dimmed as I was too tired to adjust them. I sighed, walking out of the door and starting my car. I arrived at the workplace with my under eye circles prevailing more than I would have liked. I began to drink my daily coffee, setting off to the changing rooms to prepare for my diving. I changed into my dry suit and sat on the bench, the room's atmosphere damp and cold. I sat back beside my insufferable coworker, James, who was always ecstatic and hyper. He bugged me, trying to get me to cheer up. "Hello, Earth to Daniel," he chirped, and I sighed again, completely ignoring him. He continued to poke and prod me, much to my annoyance. I couldn't wait for the day to start. I loved being a diver. It was my life's goal to make a groundbreaking underwater discovery. Little did I know that dream would come true in a way I would never expected. The day finally started at 9 o'clock on the dot as I dove into the ocean. This was the first time in the entire day that I felt complete. The cold water swirled around me as if welcoming me to this familiar environment. I swam past schools of fish, the openings seemingly parting themselves from my entry. I dove deeper, landing onto the ocean floor with a thump. I looked around, the grin on my face now unmistakable. I swam around the ocean for a specific type of moss my boss had sent me. Suddenly, my leg got stuck on a strangely complex piece of seaweed, and I could not tug it away. I started to panic, and bubbles flowed out of my mask at a concerning rate. My eyes widened as I tried to tug away more frantically. My oxygen was running out, and I only had a short amount of time until I was going to die from suffocation at the bottom of the ocean. I frantically looked around the vast distances around me when I saw a golden glint under some sand near my feet. I started to claw at the sand, slowly uncovering the golden glint. It was a small golden chest. It was marble and had engravings that looked ancient. My frantic brain did not register this could be a breakthrough as I smashed the chest onto a rock to open it. The top of the chest clicked open to reveal a small dagger. The dagger had golden hilt with a steel blade. The steel blade had golden engravings, writing that seemed to date back thousands of years. The middle of the blade was white, a metal I have never seen before. A singular diamond at the bottom of a hilt, with swirling black gas inside. I inspected the excellent craftsmanship of this dagger, as it seemed to tell a tale of era long before it passed. I grabbed the dagger, slicing it off the seaweed and sighing a sigh of relief. The diamond started to rumble as the water around it started to boil. A disembodied voice appeared from the ocean around me, booming with power. "You have made a grave mistake by swiping from the revered treasure of sacred treasures. Your actions have angered the forces of nature, as if the sea itself pulsated with ominous waves around me, echoing with disdain for my reckless actions. A strange sense of impending doom tightens around my organs, as if the dagger itself is embedding its curse into my soul. I realized this dagger was a dangerous curse and now taints my life. I looked around frantically again, abandoning the mission and throwing the dagger and swimming back to shore. I threw the dagger into a rock and disappeared into a crevice. I sighed a sigh of relief again and arrived back at shore. I removed my dry suit and suddenly felt a weight in my pocket. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the same dagger. The energy around it seemed much more aggravated, as if it had feelings, as I previously tried to destroy it. I panicked, frantically trying to find a way out of this putrid curse. I pulled the heavy dagger out of my pocket, the gold shimmering under the dimly lit room, and examined the ancient engravings on the blade. They fascinated me, temporarily keeping my mind off of the impending doom. I gently ran my fingers through the golden crystal symbols as if to avoid damaging them. The blade filled me with an overwhelming sense of dread when held, as if something was inhabiting my soul. I left the changing room and entered the office part of my workplace. I bumped into several work friends who seemed quite curious why I was so happy, a complete contrast to the tired self I was earlier. I quickly made an excuse as to why I should be excused and clocked out. I ran to my car, shut the door, and examined the blade again. The energy radiating out of the blade seemed much more calmer and at ease. I had a sickening feeling in my gut when I held it again. The confidence and strength must prevail enough when I use it. I ran my finger along the blade, cutting myself and pulling back out of pain from the surprisingly sharp blade. I thought. This blade was submerged under the vast majority of ocean and stones for thousands of years. How could it be that sharp? I pondered momentarily, a sickly voice in my mind saying sharp another rock. I was too excited to question where the voice came from, but decided to believe it. I tried to run my finger along the blade again, but it seemed dull. This heavily confused me, as the blade switched sharpness in less than a minute. I slipped it back in my pocket and drove back home. I felt the low hum of the blade against my thigh as I steered back, my hands gripping the steering wheel with a newfound confidence. I turned past the turning to my house and parked at my front door. I ran inside my house and examined the blade until I suddenly realized I had been sitting on the sofa for several hours and dashed to my bed. I woke up in the middle of the night with an overwhelming pain in my gut as the blade appeared on my chest. I was scared out of my mind when the blade lifted itself and carved words into my arm. Beware. At first, I felt nothing. Then it exploded into a burning feeling where every single pore affected had the sense of 1,000 needles poking and prodding my skin. The pain was excruciating, but I could not scream, but my mouth was being forced shut. My eyes widened under the pain. I tried to cry desperately, but all that came out was desperate gasps of breath. The pressure eventually became so excruciating that all I could do was watch my consciousness slowly fade. I fell asleep after 30 minutes of unbearable pain. I woke up in the morning. The pain had gone from my arm, and the only remnants of the hellish event last night were the deep wound of beware carved into my arm, and the dagger sitting on the bedside table. The dagger was covered in dried blood, my blood. My eyes widened when I saw the dagger again, and the hum became more angry. The same voice appeared in the back of my mind. You must pay. The deep booming and authority of that voice sent shivers down my spine. The sick feeling in my gut intensified as I started to sweat out of anxiety. My eyes dilated as the world around me became blurry. I subconsciously grasped the hem of my shirt, squeezing until my fingers were sore. I gasped as my throat closed up and my mind scribbled with panic. I sat up still, my spine frozen. I tried to move my body as I attempted to get on my bed, but I was a prisoner of my own mind. I willed my hands to move, pushing the dagger off the bedside table. The metal landed with a clatter, settling on the cold wooden floor. I stared into space, reminiscing about when I was not cursed. The tears rolled down my eyes, landing on the floor with a drop. The silence reimbursed this room as I sobbed silently, my eyes wide open with shock. My body seemed frozen. I could not move if I tried. I was in a cryo-freeze type state. My mind was racing, and I suddenly fell asleep. I collapsed onto my bed, feeling the life force drain out of my soul. I could make out small glimpses of the outside world, and I saw something that terrified me. The dagger was levitating above my chest, sucking the life force from my soul. I could feel myself dying, my body weak and nimble. My skin became thin and my bones fragile. My lungs collapsed, and I could not breathe or move. A searing pain erupted all across my body, flame-like burns appearing all over my skin. I could not scream because my mouth was gone. It had been glued together, and I made out one single last mutter, opening my mouth and my skin melting like butter before I died. Help!